Welcome to my friend Phil Street. Phil, tell the nice people a little bit about yourself.
Crikey, straight in, eh? Nice.
That's what I do.
No time for messing. So I'm Phil Street. That was done like James Bond, wasn't it?
Just like James Bond.
Should have been Phil Street. But anyway, this bodes well, doesn't it? And I run a recruitment company in hospitality called Momentum Hospitality Recruitment. And also I started a podcast this year to tell the stories of the wonderful people and things that go on in this incredible industry.
Straight in, and let's talk about kind of hospitality. I think hospitality often has a bad rep, and we have to kind of understand why there. And I think somebody wrote down for me some 6 words of why hospitality has a bad rep: hard work, long hours, and low pay. Is that a reality?
I think in places, yes, but I think the thing for me about that is that these things are not just restricted to hospitality. None of these things, if you want to make your way in any industry, are, it's not a hospitality exclusive thing. Take them in isolation. What was it? Hard work was the first one.
Indeed. Yeah.
So there straight away, right? I mean, if you want to make it to the top as a lawyer or a doctor or a banker or, whatever industry you're talking about there, you're going to have to, I would say, work harder than you do in hospitality to get to the top there. So we can park that one as far as I'm concerned. It was the next one. Long hours. And exactly that. I have a wife that used to work in hedge funds in London. And let me tell you, there is no one that I have ever come across that's worked harder. I don't mean my wife. My wife was in kind of support services, but the guys who are on the floor, the guys who are out meeting clients, they're in there at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 11 midnight at night. So, and it's high pressure, it's high stress. So again, for me, long hours, park it.
Wicked. Low pay. What are you telling me?
Low pay. Yeah, but this one gets my goat, actually, because in actual fact, if you sat down and analysed all of the various different roles that exist within hospitality at entry level, middle management, senior, and so on and so forth. One, if you're entry level, the pay is going to be as low as it's ever going to be. That again is not a hospitality defined problem. That's a problem in any sector. That's just the expectation that you don't necessarily have the skills or the experience to do the job yet. So here's an opportunity to present that capability to us so we can see where you can go. Middle management, again, I've worked in middle management and director level in companies, and let me tell you, I was doing all right, thanks very much. And it's one of those things, again, I don't know where this reputation about it being low pay comes from. Again, for me, it definitely does not define the industry in isolation. And shouldn't, and I don't know where it's come from and why that happens, but let's again park it.
Low pay, I mean, it'll be there. I think where does that mindset come from? Well, I think kind of the way that our industry is presented. You're last year you've got Priti Patel talking about the fact that we're low skilled, which honestly just fills me with an incandescent level of rage.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, this came up in conversation so much at that time, right? It was one of those, how can you ever classify someone being low skilled who has the capability to make someone feel special, make them feel wanted, make them feel that like they're in the right place? I mean, that to me is the greatest skill that exists on the planet. But that's one of its beauties as well, isn't it? I mean, you can literally come into the industry with maybe even at a crossroads in your life where you haven't got a clue what you want to do. One, the industry will welcome you in for a start. And then you've got so many different paths and opportunities. But I think the key thing for me is that people have to come to the party with this. Like it's not a place to come and just sort of drift around and just I don't know what I want to do 20 years on. You're come and give it a go. And learn if it's for you, and you know, if it's not, then fair enough, and move on and go and try something else. But it's a two-way street, and the good things will happen to you in this business when you start doing the good things to it as well.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. And I think it's, you know, when I'm talking to kids in schools and kind of they're asking questions about what it's like, what it can do for you. Well, because it is one of those choice places where you get back what you put in, is a simple answer.
Sure. Yeah.
So when I started out on my £1.25 an hour, if I would have allowed that to define how I felt about it as an industry, then would have got would have got frustrated. I wouldn't have been good at what I did. I wouldn't have started to show any promise, and probably would have just stayed on a pretty low wage, to be fair, because my attitude would not have been right. Whereas actually, you tap into something that really makes you smile about it and why you're doing it. And you're right, you know, we get the chance every day to bring joy to people, and that's an amazing thing. So you tap into that feeling, and you become unstoppable.
Absolutely. And then imagine then being part of a team. So you're not just an individual that's making these things happen. And don't forget your impact that you can have on the team members around you as well. It's, you know, if everybody started building out like that, imagine what a place that is to work like. And believe me, that happens in this industry.
So I was chatting with Joe and Nina from the Next Steps Club, and Nina was talking about this one moment where a good example of kind of positive behavior and impact is every day I made somebody a cup of tea. You know, I made one of my team members a cup of tea, and some folks would look at that and think, well, that's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. But the way I would look at that is every day I gave somebody a reason to smile. Every day I made somebody else started their day with them thinking somebody was thinking about me rather than their own needs. And every time you put that cup of tea in somebody's hands, they feel that warmth, they feel that kindness. And what they're then going to go and do is pay it forward to the next person that they come across.
Yeah.
That's how we win, isn't it?
Totally. And there's actually a bit of science behind that as well, in the sense that it's there's a chemical within us called oxytocin, which is the chemical that mothers release at birth. That's what forms the bond so quickly between mother and child. It's one of the reasons. I suppose there's probably other factors in play as well, like love, maybe. I don't know. But actually, that release of oxytocin takes place when you show somebody an act of kindness. And let's face it, that kindness is at the heart of hospitality. It's about, as we discussed earlier on, making people feel special, like they belong somewhere, like they're part of something. And whether they're there for 2 hours to have a meal or whether they're joining you for their career, then, you know, it's a really infectious thing. When you deliver kindness to somebody, they then take that and it releases oxytocin in them. And it's just this, it's a warm and fuzzy thing. And it sounds really idealistic, and some people might be listening to this going unrealistic, but I mean, try it. Honestly, it's the pay it forward thing, as you said as well. It just kind of reciprocates.
It does, and that idea of just give it a go. You know, it's very easy to be cynical, but it can be a little bit more hard work sometimes to say, right, I'm going to give this a bash. I'm going to put it into action. But when you do, you start to feel the real benefit of it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about those six words, and we've debunked them beautifully, if I'm entirely honest with you. So I'm going to give you the opportunity now to give me 6 words to how you would define hospitality.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do you define anything in 6 words, right? I mean, that's for one. I did give it a go though. So I came up with the sorry, I have to put this the right way because I've got to make sure it's 6 words. Most amazing industry in the world.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, it's tenuous because there should be a "the" at the front of that sentence, but
I'm going to roll with it. I feel like if there's anything I'm going to be willing to give up, it's a "the." So, most amazing industry in the world. It absolutely is. So when we describe it as that, and I've had this discussion where I have described it as that, I've had people push back to me and say, "Is it though, Kieran? You know, is it? Are you just trying to create this soft, fluffy image of this thing?"
Nope.
I think there's the reality, isn't there? You know, yes, it can be tough. Yes, it can be challenging. that doesn't stop it from being amazing.
No, and we've already kind of debunked the myths that that's, restricted purely for hospitality's purpose anyway. But I mean, there's so many different reasons why I think it's the most amazing industry in the world, notwithstanding all the amazing people that you get to come in and work with every day. But this industry can send you traveling into the most beautiful resorts around the world. You get to learn so many different skills beyond the skill of people. You get to go and learn about wine. You get to go and learn about food. You get to learn cooking techniques. I don't know, whatever you're thinking, you can learn engineering. And that's another thing for me about that doesn't get enough positive press around the industry, is the sheer scope of opportunity is just off the charts. I mean, you can come in and be an engineer. You can come in and be a lawyer, a doctor. All of these things exist within hospitality. The perception is that I think you come in and you're a waiter or a chef or a bartender. But the reality is that, yeah, you can come in and do that for sure. But you can also come in and be a financial controller. You can be, a food and beverage specialist, a cocktail maker extraordinaire. Literally name an industry and you can do it. Even entertainment, we have entertainment in resorts all over the world, notwithstanding that every shift is like a little mini show.
I love that. It's really easy to focus on those frontline jobs as being the opportunity in hospitality. But, that idea that actually, if I want to go and work in the legal department, well, there isn't a restaurant business out there, a hotel business out there that doesn't have a legal department. Yep. I know I've given speeches at different points and had to run them through said legal department. So they do exist. They are all out there.
I wouldn't have seen that in you at all, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't work for those places for long, Phil, I'll be honest with you. I mean, those kind of boundaries just didn't work for me, those restrictions. But then you look at it and you think, well, so maintenance, property maintenance, I've met some real cool people over the years who love hospitality, but they love fixing stuff. They love making it move. They love keeping all of the moving parts doing what they should do, and they get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, do you know, I started my career on board cruise ships, and they're a prime example of everything that I've just said, and maybe that's how my opinion was formed. But in there, yes, we have 2,000 guests that come into a floating hotel, basically.
Yeah.
But the hotel is nothing if it doesn't float and move to where it needs to get to. So engineering, is massive on board a cruise ship. And then you've got the deck department who drive the thing to get to where it is. You have a medical team on board to make sure that they can cope with anyone that unfortunately runs into health issues. It's just, there's a youth department looking after kids. There's all manner of entertainment. It's notwithstanding then all of the food and beverage and the rooms and all of these sorts of things. It's a floating. That's probably better. Haven't figured out how to walk up water yet. But it's a floating example of exactly that, and then, as you said, back in head office, you've then got all the legal teams making sure that we can arrive in ports and pass immigration and make sure that we're not breaking any laws, maritime, whatever. So that's one example, but that happens in so many different facets of the industry across, as you said, even in an independent restaurant company.
Mm-hmm.
They need legal advice on certain things. That's just a matter of normality in business, that can be small and large problems. So
I need to believe, Phil, that when you started out on cruise ships, you were like a young Jane McDonald, just waiting to just entertain the world. Am I on the mark?
How did you know that? Yeah, well, maybe I was meant to be doing that, but wasn't. I was a receptionist. That's how I started out life there, okay. With lofty ambitions to go out onto the stage and address, for sure.
I mean, we've all had them. We've all had those ambitions, including the people who drive the ship. I love that technical language as well, Phil. Makes me happy when you go all technical. Yeah, so I thought about this kind of this 6-word thing, and I tried it, and I'm a man who struggles to minimize his words. I'll be honest with you, but I came up with it's a true meritocracy.
Oh, wow.
So I've narrowed it down to 5, which is a freaking miracle for a starting point. But that's the thing that stands out to me about hospitality is if you work hard, if you kind of push yourself and develop yourself and throw everything you can at it, then you can absolutely rise and you can get through those ranks.
Yeah.
So when people talk about working their way up the ladder, is that from in your perspective, is that a genuine opportunity? And can it take forever, or am I going to be able to do this at kind of at a pace?
That's there's lots of different answers to that question. I think one, you can come in at the beginning of the industry and figure it all out and figure out your path as to what direction you want to go in. That's perfectly fine. That takes you as long as it takes you to learn and demonstrate how good you are, basically, and whether you are in the right place to be doing it in the first place. But there's many. I was going to use a really terrible animal skinning thing that used to be a phrase. Is it many ways to skin a cat? Is that the one?
I think so, yeah. I mean, but I'm a vegetarian, Phil, so I'm not buying into that.
Yeah, I don't want to alienate cat lovers either. So,
I mean, I've got 6 of those too, so let's not do it.
Yeah. Do we need to end the call now?
Well, I mean, we've got a problem. Just saying.
You can have. I mean, I'm sorry to kind of talk about the podcast again, but I had a chat. Actually, one of the things that I wanted to do on the podcast was demonstrate the sheer scope of journeys and ways to get to where you want to get to. And yes, only yesterday I had a chat with a guy who I've known for a long time, who's been a CFO and is stepping up into a CEO position at the turn of the year. But he started out life, this is a finance guy, so he started out life in going to university and getting a degree in accounting and finance. He knew that that's what he always wanted to do, just didn't know which industry was for him. Right. Spent some time in, I suppose, an accountancy firm, PwC in this case, but went in, he didn't join as an entry level. He went in as kind of lower management, I suppose. Did a couple of years in there, and then all of a sudden an opportunity arose to come into hospitality, something he'd never considered before until the opportunity presented itself. Looked at it on its merits. Actually, he's a people person. This sounds really interesting, actually, figuring out how to make businesses better within hotels and restaurants, and took up the job and has never looked back. So why was that a long-winded story to make a point? But it's just to demonstrate that there's not one clear way to do this. Your journey is your own, and there's going to be your own. I don't know where you are, if you're listening to this, what level you're at in your career, whether you're starting out or whether you've got 2 or 3 years experience behind you or 20 years experience behind you. But it's the important thing of all of this is how kind of up for it you are. And so if you feel like you need to go into the entry level to get the skills under your belt, then do it. If you feel like you've got more to offer, then push for that. And just you kind of got to take it on its own individual merits. It's a very, as I've demonstrated, I hope it's a very difficult question to answer.
It is a tough one, and I think it's a very personalized answer. Is the simple thing. It comes down to the idea about what is important to you and what is right for you as an individual. So that self-awareness of kind of where you are, that self-awareness of your skills that you've got to offer, of the traits that you bring to the table. The more of that you have, the more understanding of what those are, then I guess the faster you'll go through those ranks. That journey to self-awareness isn't quick for all of us.
Yeah, totally. And the other part of that, I think, as well, is that just because you maybe you take a punt and you go into a certain level that you felt was right, but all of a sudden you find yourself maybe out of your depth, or maybe it's culturally not the right place for you. Maybe you want a bit more structure. Maybe there's not structure there. It's just having constant conversations with yourself in a non-insane way to establish, that am I making the right calls here? And you can make quick progress, but I don't think that should be the underlying goal of anybody that comes into any job in any part of any industry, because you can miss glorious opportunities just by holding yourself back a little bit, and and really consolidate your learning from wherever you are, rather than always looking for, okay, well, I've got that lick now, so where am I going next? Where am I going next? Sometimes you can get the best opportunities just by calming down a bit.
Yep. Well, I mean, as a really good example of that, as a guy who started out with me kind of a good while ago, and he's done really well in his career, gone through the ranks. He'd kind of got himself to GM, did a bit of time as area manager cover for a brand, but actually realised that it wasn't for him, to be honest with you, and it wasn't a great experience that he had, and it messed with him, if I'm entirely honest with you. And I was speaking to him last week, and he's just accepted a job as an AGM in a very cool kind of brand that everybody wants to be a part of right now. They're big businesses as well. And he said to me he was unsure about taking the step back to being an AGM, having been in the big seats. And I said, well, first of all, you got to look at it as different. I said, the business that you're stepping into is much bigger, so scale is it's going to create different challenges. So for you to take that step back into an AGM role may it actually be the best thing that you could do, because you can then really get your head around the skills that are going to be required for you to become the leader of this business, of a business of this size and this stature. And happily, he's a very smart boy who understands that actually taking that step back is one of the best ways that's going to help him to take the next step forward. And that's really key.
A lot of times people make decisions based around pound signs.
Yep.
As in, maybe I'm on 35k as an AGM, and I've been given an opportunity to go to 45 as a GM. But it doesn't mean that you're ready for that. It's attractive, obviously, to get the pound signs, a couple of extra £100 in your bank account at the end of the month. But ultimately, what happens in that situation is if that's the thing that's driven your decision, is that's the drive is all wrong within you for the success in that position.
Yeah.
So you go into it and maybe you're out of your depth, and maybe the company don't have the scope or capability to be able to cope with you being out of your depth. So you're stressed, you're bringing stress onto the team underneath you, you're bringing stress to the people above you, and nobody's happy in that situation. And the best piece of advice I was given, and I can't even remember who gave me this, but it was, if you focus on doing what you do and doing it well, and just making sure that you really cross all of the T's and dot the I's before you consider looking to move on, the money's going to come. It really is. And it might take you a couple of years longer to get there, but then you'll have the skills that you need to do your job well. You won't be out of your depth. You'll be in a scenario whereby you're actually affecting a business in a positive way. You're not losing energy through stress, so you can do your job better on all of these things. So that's a piece of advice I give to so many people, is you just got to just calm down a bit and just focus on being as good as you can be, and don't focus on the pound signs.
I mean, I love that. The pounds will come, is a simple answer. If you do well, if you become good at what you do, then the pounds will follow. That is just a simple fact. Yeah. So if I'm thinking about this idea and saying, right, I want to get on board. There's a lot of people right now who are going to be thinking about making some changes from other industries. And whilst hospitality right here and right now has potentially maybe not quite the solid, reliable thing that it always has been, it will be again. So there are going to be people who are thinking, right, I'm going to get on board with this. But maybe they go and tell their friends and family. Maybe they go and tell their parents. And the first answer is, no, don't do it. Because that negative perception is definitely out there about our industry. The
problem then is that too many people believe that that's what the industry is, and it's so far removed from what the industry is. It's unbelievable. But coming back to your point about what your kind of family and your friends say if you raise that point, I've spoken about this on the podcast multiple times actually. Did I tell you about the podcast? Anyway,
I've heard about it somewhere. I don't know. What's it called?
Hospitality Meets, yeah. It's one of those things that there's so many inspirational people in this industry that you send them into a room full of kids at school or university, and you can't help but they're going to inspire. a number of people, maybe let's even just say a classroom of 100, 25% of the people walk out. And I think that would be low for a lot of the people that I know that can go and deliver inspirational chats. But 25% then go home and they tell their mum and dad, oh, I want to go and work in a hotel, or I want to go and work in a restaurant, or whatever. And the first thing they say is, no, you don't. One thing I always say, and this actually came to me, all genius things come in moments of walking the dog or alcohol. This one was walking the dog, is that just think about the prospect that every single genius idea that's ever come up has first of all been lambasted by everyone around you, your friends, your family, the people who say they're in the know, but they actually know nothing about what they're talking about. So why would we take their advice on something like that? And I know that especially as kids, it comes from, well, I place trust and faith in my parents' opinion. But if they've not worked in the hospitality industry, then you need to go and get some other areas to get your advice, to get that rounded, so you can go and make a PowerPoint presentation to your parents and and tell them your 10-point reason as to why this is the industry for me. No, but that to me is a simple point, that it's the genius thing for me is, and I'm not suggesting that us that all work in this industry are geniuses, but you do have a situation whereby the people who will offer you advice are not the people who actually know what they're talking about. Yeah. So you've got to go and get more knowledge, get more examples, get more, and actually part of that is just going and experiencing it yourself. So if you're 16 years old, go and get a job as a glass collector. That'll give you exposure to a wonderful industry, the pub industry. If you're at university age, go and get an internship somewhere. That'll put you in front of 6 or 7 different departments. So you'll get a real sense of, okay, is this really for me, or is it not? And within there, maybe there's something that really grabs you. There's so many people go into internships and go, God, I didn't even know HR existed. I'd love to be in HR. So they go and do HR. Yeah. I just don't take the first no as the definitive reason as to why you should stop pursuing something. If it's singing to you in your heart that you're thinking, well, I really quite fancy this, then go and get your own experience. As I said to somebody, go and make your own truth on the matter. Like that a lot. Yeah. It's the same principle as, not all of us are destined to be CEOs. There's not enough CEO positions around the world for everybody to be a CEO. So by the same token, you then put that kind of logic into the environment of if your parent or that first line of support says to you, no, I don't want you to go into hospitality. Okay, what do you want me to go into? Financial services. Well, let me tell you that less than 5% of people make it in there. So you need to go and, I suppose, I'm not suggesting that you wouldn't. I'm not trying to take anybody's dreams and hopes and all of that. But if there's something, the most important element to any job that you do is how it doesn't really feel like a job, and that you feel like you're getting out of bed and what you're doing makes a difference and it puts a smile on your face. Then don't worry about if somebody tells you, no, I shouldn't, you shouldn't be doing that. Just go and make sure that you kind of are following your own heart. God, that's really light and fluffy, isn't it?
We're a fluffy business, and we are a heart-centered business is a simple answer. People do this because it feels good. People do this because that moment that we get to make somebody smile is the thing that will stay with us, and it can be something inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, but we bring joy to people's hearts. When we put that dish down in front of somebody and we can honestly say, you are going to love that. That's a nice moment. When we take them to their room and we show them and we see that moment where they just go, wow, yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
And ultimately, these are the things you remember as a human, right? When you're later in your life and you're looking back on the things that you did, it's the experiences that you did rather than the stuff that you've got. And we're in the experience business. We deliver these, and don't forget, just because you're delivering experiences for other people, you're still a consumer of it yourself.
You're part of that experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's, and actually one of the chats I had with Chris, your counterpart, around when he told the story of the setting up, there's a concert in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
With Hard Rock.
Hyde Park Calling, absolutely.
Yeah, and setting it up, there's no guests in or anything like that, and on stage are Pink Floyd doing a sound check, and you kind of look at yourself and go, holy cow, man, was I really a part of that? Yeah, I get to be here, and just do my job, but also listen to world-class musicians before anybody else gets a chance to. I
love that idea, though. We build and deliver amazing experiences for other people, but we are always a key element of that experience. So when they walk away and remember that, you know what, they don't forget the fact that you were there. They don't forget the part that you played in that. You will constantly stay in their heart and in their mind. That's an amazing thing. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. I mean, that should be on a poster. When Springboard are doing their Springboard 2022, they've got to be talking about this as a simple answer. We've got to start sharing that loudly and more clearly. We absolutely do. Yeah, we need to. I don't know how it's not happened or why or whatever. And there are bigger brains than my own that need to kind of take this on. But we need to really, really shout about the good stuff, because there's so much of it day in, day out in this industry all over the world. It's just, for whatever reason, that message is not the message that gets out to the world. So we need to get better at that. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but I need to, maybe all I'm doing is just keeping that on the agenda to be discussed. I think that's the key. We've got to shine a light on it. I think one of the questions that we've been talking about is, why do people fall in love with hospitality? Well, we've spent 25 minutes now talking about a huge amount of reasons why people fall in love with hospitality. What we need to be able to do and what we should be doing is sharing that as much as we possibly can do, as loudly as we possibly can do. Yeah. Because my story, your story, Chris's story, everybody's got a story. And if you're willing to put it out there and you're willing to share it, then somebody's going to look at that and you're going to connect. And they're going to connect with that feeling and be like, damn, I want some of that in my life. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you get to have that in your life every day. Love that. Yeah. So, if I hate food and I hate people, is this the place for me? Can I do well here? When I saw that as a potential question that might come up, I did have a chuckle, because that's actually the sort of question that you and I would debate behind away from a camera, isn't it? Absolutely. But do you know what? Initially, when I thought, I went, probably not, mate. It's probably not for you. But then I thought to myself, actually, rather than answering yes or no to that, this comes back to go and figure out, if those two things, you don't like those two things, go and figure out the things that you do like and focus on that more than the things that you don't. Yep. Then we can have a discussion about whether actually hospitality still has a place for you, because you probably hate people because you've had a situation whereby you were burnt. You won't hate all people, I guarantee that. Just not possible, is it, really? No. Hate food. Well, look, you need it to survive. So, it's a makeup of everybody's life day in, day out. So, I would just say to go and figure out what you do like, and then come back and have a conversation, and we'll see if there's room for you. I'm on board with that, because if you can stand there and make that declaration that you hate both of those things, that feels like a knee-jerk reaction to something else rather than actually a genuine feeling. So tracking back to that and thinking, well, what was it about people that just didn't make me smile? Understanding what that was and thinking, right, what is it? So on the other hand, what is it that is going to make me smile? And you can start to build your choices around that, and you can really start to look into it. Exactly. Top draw. Phil, amazing, my friend. I always know that time spent in your company is going to be time well spent. And you've just delivered. Oh, legend. And you noticed it's getting dark here as well. I've not got the light on, but my face is exposed. There's a definite glow. I'll give you that. There's a definite glow.